Welcome to the Orb Radio Show. I am your host, Spicy Rambo, and I have a great show planned for you today. I'm going to be talking about some very interesting things. We have a Duendes update. On one of our previous episodes, we had talked about miniature people or Duendes, tiny people. We have an update about that. Giants and cover-ups. A very interesting story I heard from another podcast about giants and government cover-ups. We have a story about Jeffrey Epstein that is going around on the internet, the papal ascension, and nuclear war, and much more just ahead. So back to this quick music break, and we'll be right back to talk about all that. Welcome to the show once more. Thank you for tuning in to the broadcast. We appreciate it very much. Today, it is a cold May morning in the high desert, freezing our butts off, not expecting this kind of cold, but as you know, temperatures can vary in the desert. So, we're just trying to stay warm, huddled up in front of the heater today. Found a few very interesting stories that we wanted to talk about, and that's it. That's going to be the show for today. But first off, I wanted to talk about duendes, miniature people, tiny people, dwarves, elves. I don't know what they are. I find them very interesting, and I told a story on a previous podcast. You'll have to listen to one of the earlier podcasts to hear about that. But I told a story about how one time in the middle of the night, I saw a very tiny human being crossing the road. Looked to me to be the size of 1 to 2 feet tall, and how that shocked my mind. And then I thought I would never hear anything more about tiny people. But as it happens, they have now come into my life again. I heard that somewhere in the desert near me housed the location of some ancient dwellings of duendes or tiny people. And when I saw the location, I thought, well, that must be mistaken, because I have been there many times and I don't recall seeing anything that looked like it was designed for tiny people. Well, this hike, it's only about a 2-mile hike. I hiked about 3 miles. I parked at the little campground and decided to hike in from there. And me and my dog went on a hike, and I wanted to go up there to those dwellings and check them out. Well, they're on the top of a huge mountain. So when you're driving through the desert, you'll see this huge rock wall going way up into the sky, and you're already at 5,000-6,000 feet elevation. Imagine what the elevation is up there. And if you look very closely, you can see some railings. And so if you know the area, if you go very close to if you go all the way to the trailhead and close to the mountain, there is actually a very nice trail that you can't see because the mountain's so big and the trail's so small attached to the side of the mountain. A little switchbacks going up one area that brings you all the way up to the top of the mountain. And it's a pretty steep hike. Although it's only a couple of miles, it's pretty steep. But when you get up there, you see these dwellings, and these dwellings have been dug into the top of the mountain. So imagine a rock top that's like a tabletop, and they've dug in. The dwellings are maybe 6 feet in, maybe 5 feet in. If you were standing in it, it wouldn't be very tall. But I'm sure the dwellings were taller before, but we're seeing just the remnants of them. But when I was up there, I couldn't believe it. But I decided to look at the window. I've been up there many times on hikes with people, and I looked, and the window size was I'm not kidding you. The window size is maybe my finger to my elbow, so 1.5 feet, and the doorway was maybe just a tiny bit bigger than that, maybe like 2 feet tall. And I was like, wow, I had never noticed that, because you're looking at something that looks like the roof has been completely removed, because it's an ancient dwelling, so it's fallen apart, so you're just seeing the walls. Imagine your house and the walls and just no roof, and what it would look like if you're looking above. You would see these rock walls going in different directions, and those are the dividers of the halls and the rooms. Well, I looked at the rooms too, and I thought, wow, I never noticed that before. The rooms look to only be about 3 to 4 feet wide. You can get very close to them, but it does say there's cameras up there, and there's some construction going on up there. They put some tarps up there to protect it because it's falling apart. But it's very frowned upon. If you jump in there, you could have a big $100,000 fine on your hands. So it's so close, but you don't really need to measure it. You can see with your eyes because you're so close to it. And it's definitely not meant for normal sized people. Obviously, nobody could go through a 2 foot by 1.5 foot doorway. No. A window, a little small window, that makes sense. I mean, maybe you just want a small window, but the doorway doesn't make any sense, and you can see that these are clearly the doorways that go into each corridor. But obviously it didn't end there. As I got up to the mountain, you have to hike all the way to the other side and then hike all the way down what they call like 62 stair trail or something like that. It's a bunch of stairs. Some of the stairs are cut into the actual rock itself, and some have been made out of concrete onto the. If you can hear that sound, that is when my microphone just randomly decides to die and makes me think that the government is messing with my equipment, which I'm sure it's not. I'm sure they're not, and I'm sure that it's some normal explanation for my configuration of how I have my microphone and my sound mixer, but randomly my microphone dies like that and makes a weird noise and makes me think that somebody's messing with my equipment. But as I decided to go up to this spot, I got up there and it was a clear day. And this is also a spot called Inscription Rock. And it's called Inscription Rock because there was some petroglyphs on it, ancient native petroglyphs that are all over in New Mexico. And one of the common petroglyphs is the spiral. And the people in the past, in the 1800s, 1700s, some of these are very old and now they protect it, inscribed their own inscription on the rock. So I didn't think about this until later, and I'm gonna return to this part, but I wanted to preface before I went on that this place also houses at the beginning of the trail Inscription Rock, where there's petroglyphs of a dimension from the Native Americans, extra dimensional wormhole or something, and then people signed their name next to it. Maybe saying they saw the same thing, maybe just saying that they were in the same place. I don't know. But so I go up this place. It's a clear sky. And I start my trail. I'm hiking about 3 miles, and this is a steep way up the side of a mountain, so it takes a little while. And I have a little dog with me, but she's a good hiker. And so we start hiking. It's a clear day, and then we get up to I see that when we're starting to get up to the top of the mountain and crest, where we're going to have to walk across the top of the mountain and over into the remains of the dwellings, there's a huge storm blowing in that all of a sudden blowing in. And it's just a huge black cloud in this clear sky, and it's aiming directly for the top of the mountain. And I joked with my friends later that it was like, get out of here, white man. Or I don't know what it was, but something did not seem to want me there at all. So this black cloud is headed for the mountain. And now I'm there because I want to take some photographs or whatever, investigate this site, and bring a bunch of equipment with me because I'm hiking and I'm trying to enjoy it as well. But so I get up there and now it's starting to rain. And once I get over to the remains and hike all the way across the mountain, it's like got these cool stairs cut into the mountain. It's a very interesting hike. But now it's a little hike once you get up the mountain, across the mountain to the dwellings that are like kind of in the center. So now I've got to cross, and so I'm like, come on, dog, let's go. We got to make this fast. We got to beat this storm and get down the other side of the mountain before this storm really picks up and is bad, so we don't get soaked or struck by lightning or whatnot. So I get to the dwellings and I'm trying to look at them. I'm trying to use my iPhone to use the measuring tool on it because I can't go up to the items, but I can use that little measuring tool and then take a screenshot of the measuring tool so that you could see on the measuring tool on the iPhone the exact distance of it. But of course, I don't have any time. My equipment's not working right. My iPhone's not working right. There's a storm headed for me, so I'm just like, well, I guess I'm just not supposed to photograph this stuff right now, and I'll just come back later. I have my stuff at the campsite. I'll just come back a little bit later and then try to do the hike again, and then maybe the storm will have died down. So I hike down the other side, and I just beat the storm, just beat it. And as I get to the trail on the side, I'm looking at the storm. Now I'm looking at from the bottom at this huge mountain, and the storm is now on the top of the mountain where I just was. That would have totally been raining on me, kicked me out. But as I'm walking, and I did take a small crappy video of it on my little phone that I use as an iPod that just has music in it. It's an old phone of mine, all broken, all scratched and cracked. But I was able to take a short video with that real quick on my hike because like a punch hole cloud or a window that showed clear sky, blue sky behind it, right through this black cloud, dark rain storm cloud is right in the center of it. Like almost like God was watching me through this hole. Like he was sending the storm, but he punched a hole right through it so he could watch to the center to see if the storm was making me go away or not. But very strange occurrence when all I was trying to do was go up to this site and get some like footage and get a little bit of photographs of this site. But yeah, very interesting site, and apparently somebody didn't want me up there. But that is my update on the duendes. It was quite long, and I'm sorry for that. But I wanted to let you guys know that I had just talked about on that one episode. Alright, the next thing I wanted to talk about was giants. So, I heard this very interesting story on a podcast recently about these guys that had come upon a cave in some huge underground cavern systems. And I've seen a number of stories like this, so I wanted to research it more in depth because I'm a cave searcher myself. So I live in the desert and in the Southwest, so I'm always searching for little caverns, little crevices, you know. Who might have left a little bag of coins, a little bag of gold doubloons? We know this is Cibola, the city of gold, the lost city of gold, supposedly. There was all kinds of cowboys searching and looting and hiding stuff for later if they had to get away. So I'm always searching for these spots because you never know when you're going to come upon them. So I'm always very interested in cave stuff. And I heard this story about these guys, these two scientists two doctors that had found this place while they were hiking. And I guess their names were Dr. Russell and Dr. Bouvet. I don't even know. Maybe it's Bruce Russell and Daniel Bouvet. Maybe those are, sometimes they use their last name, sometimes they use their first name. So those might be switched up a little bit. But those are the doctors' names, and it was like in the 1930s. The Smithsonian tried to cover this whole thing up, which if you get into any kind of U.S. history, you start to learn that there's a lot of stuff lurking in the Smithsonian Museum that you don't see that's underneath. That's been kind of trying to change the narrative of the human history tale. And I've learned this in the past, so when I heard this story, I thought this was very interesting. And it had some valid points because this place was later turned into a United States, the land was taken and made into a United States base and totally off limits to anybody. So when people say there's nothing to this story, well then why did they take it? And why did they make it off limit to everybody? There's probably something to that. But these two doctors in the 30s found this cave. And I guess that in the early 1900s, there was something with a Lovelock cave. And there was an incident behind that with Smithsonian taking some stuff with it. So when these guys had found this cave, they decided to keep this cave secret for 15 years and explore it for 15 years. And this cave was, I guess, essentially on the Shoshone and Paiute land that was eventually was taken. And this is the land that these guys were exploring. So they explored these caves, and they said that they found the remnants of giants, or mummified remains of beings inside there that were giants. And then they found like stuffed or taxidermied or busted or mummified animals that were supposedly extinct, like saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths and things like that were in this huge cave. So these guys explored all this stuff for 15 years, and the cave was so vast that they basically could have explored forever, but these guys ran out of money. And they got to the point where they said, well, we got to turn a profit and we got to make some money or we're just going to be broke and we're not going to be able to do anything. So they wanted to start this company called Amazing Explorations. So they needed money and they needed investors to start that. So they got a bunch of investors together, but these investors, I guess, ended up telling them, no, we're not investing in this. This is in the early 1900s. So this is like snake oil stuff. So it's like, no way. Like, unless we can actually see this place, we're not going to invest in this. So he took this group of people, and once this group of people saw some of the stuff that they brought them down in there, they're like, okay, this is wild. And they're like, for sure, we're going to invest in this. So they said, first, what we want you to do is we want you to have a press conference and show some of these artifacts. Because if we're going to invest in it and it's going to be an exploration like tour type of company, then you're going to have to be willing to expose this thing And that will be great press for us, that you're going to show some of these amazing artifacts at a press conference. So I guess that Russell decided, okay, yeah, that sounds great. Let's just do that. And once it's been exposed, what can they really do? And so Russell went to go to the place and get the artifacts and bring them back. But it ended up being that Russell never showed up for the press conference. So there's a bunch of people just sitting there like waiting for a guy. And they're like, huh. So when they went out looking, Russell and the people that had gone out had disappeared. And all they had found was Russell's vehicle with a bag with clothes in it. And that's literally all they found. No more Russell. Nobody heard about the guy literally ever again. And then when you go to look that this place was turned into a military base, and then you start to look up these people that Russell and Bouvet had tried to get as investors, there is like no information you can find on Russell or Bouvet, any of the investors. Everybody has been completely disappeared. And while some people will say that, oh no, that just means that the story is a hoax, and that's not true because there's no backstory behind any of these people. It's like, no, you have to always return to the fact that they ended up getting mad, snatching this base and snatching this land, and then turning it into a base and saying, hey, nobody can come here. So if that happened, something literally was there, and it wasn't a hoax. So it's much more likely that all of these people were completely disappeared because they had seen something that they were literally not supposed to see. And I'm noticing that every time I see anything revolving around giants, there's always some insane stuff revolving around the government trying to cover it up. Bigfoot, too, sometimes, funny enough, which he is gigantic. I wonder if he's a relative of the giants. I don't know, because things they get so serious about, they always say that they're trying to stop people when they're doing this kind of stuff over, like, for their safety or misinformation. And it's like, when have you cared? When has the United States government cared about keeping people safe or making sure that people weren't lied to? Okay, we live in the United States where literally the air, water, every food, the internet, everything is poisoned. And they don't care. They're not doing anything to stop that. And when they're saying they're trying to keep you safe or they're trying to make sure the information that's fed to you is the truth, look at all the information that's around us. You can't make heads or tails of any of it. So when they're saying that that's their reasons for why they're going to come in here and stop you, it's a bold-faced lie is what it is. It's that there's something there and they don't want you to know it. I'm telling you. So the car was found, Russell's missing, and that's that. That was literally the end of the cave. That was the end of Amazing Explorations. The whole thing was over and done with. And if you're wondering what the name of this base is, it's actually called the China Lake Naval Weapons Station. And it says that it has a 1 million square miles that this base covers. And I'm guessing that that's mostly underground. But yeah, the China Lake Naval Weapons Station was once a crazy cavern that housed giants. Go figure. All right, the next thing I wanted to talk about shortly was Epstein. Anytime I see Epstein's name come up, I get very interested because I was very interested in the Podesta files and the emails and Pizzagate and all of that. And the dark side of Hollywood. The evil. The Baphomet worshippers, so to speak. I always was very interested in them because who wouldn't be interested by the fact that devil worshippers are literally running the entertainment world? But anyway, I saw this article that said some more things were released, some documents were released with a bunch of people's names. And it was really just pretty much clickbait. So if you're seeing a bunch of names linked to Epstein and any stories about this, it's pretty much clickbait because most of these names, if you look in these documents, are names that were already discussed before, like Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton. They're just basically discussing anybody that had any involvement. All these same people that you've heard about in connection with Epstein. And one thing, I just brought Epstein up just because I wanted to say suicide. Certain things seem to be hot button items, and I get scared to talk about them because do we really have free speech in this world anymore? But with Jeffrey Epstein, yeah. I want to see the body. Like so many of these people that have died before.
I want to see the body.
Hitler? I want to see the body. Jeffrey Epstein? I want to see the body. Okay? I'm not buying it. But that's just what I think. I also wanted to talk about the papal ascension, which there are so many articles about the Pope. All the different things that they put in the Pope's casket and what they mean and who's going to be the next Pope. Is it bad that all these Peters are in the running for Pope? What about the papal prophecies about the last Pope being named Peter? So I wanted to talk about the papal ascension because, like I said before, many people named Peter are in the running. Probably the strongest candidate is this guy named Peter Erdo. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but he's a Hungarian guy. He's probably the strongest candidate to be the next Pope. His name is Cardinal Peter Erdo, and he is from Esztergom, Hungary. I don't know how you say it, but yeah. He might be the next Pope, and that worries people because his name is Peter. So much stuff is all coming down to prophecy these days, and I always start to wonder, is this actually prophecy coming about? Or did people hear about these prophecies and then they're self-fulfilling them? Like if I hear about a prophecy that says,
one day, the coolest guy ever will carry a green turtle with a blue spot on its back.
well, why can't I just find that prophecy and then show up one day with a green turtle and a blue spot on its back?
Well, then I'm the guy, right?
So I feel like a lot of these people are just making these prophecies come true. I can't rightly say. I certainly hope not. I hope they would just leave prophecy alone and just let it naturally fruit. But I don't think that they're like that. That's going to be all we have for you today on the show, guys. Thank you for tuning in to the Orb Radio Show. I am your host, Spicy Rambo, and I hope that you'll tune in next time and have a great day.